Hi everyone, I'm Bridgette with Potomac Bead Company. Join me today in creating these Peyote bezeled rectangle earrings. Today you'll need the 13 by 18 resin emerald cut cabochons, as well as 11/0 Delicas, 15/0 seed beads, and 5 by 8 briolets. If you need to purchase any of these materials, they were listed at the beginning of the video, as well as down below in the description area. You'll find the full list of items along with links to our website. So go ahead and grab your materials and let's get started. Alright, so to start off this rectangle bezel, I have what we're actually going to be bezeling around. This is the resin emerald cut cabochon. It's 13 by 18 and it's in the turquoise swirl. I have my Delica beads, which is going to be the primary bead in the bezel. This is the copper lined crystal. And then I also have my Miyuki 15/0s, which is the copper lined opal. I won't be using these till the end, so I'm going to kind of keep those off to the side for now. And what we're going to be doing is just a simple peyote stitch bezel around this cabochon. If you haven't done peyote yet and you feel like you want to kind of learn that first, we do have videos on our YouTube channel just with the peyote stitch, so you can kind of learn that if you're finding it a little hard to keep up with the bezel. So starting off, for each side, I'm using 9 for the long side and 7 for the shorter sides, and then adding an extra bead for each of the corners. So that comes to 36 altogether that I'm starting out with. And when it comes to peyote, you definitely want to make sure that your count is correct. If you're off by 1, it will throw it off. So definitely double check. I counted this about 3 times just to make sure I have the 36 there. So I already have those strung on, and I'm going to go back through the first 2 over here so that I make a loop. So just go through those 2. And also I'm using the Wildfire 0.006 thread and then a size 12 needle, since I am using the smaller, the Delicas and the 15s. The 12 needle will be a little bit easier to go through those smaller holes. So here we go. I'm starting off with the peyote. So I'm gonna pick up and you're gonna skip over that first bead and go through your second Delica and pull that, and then again pick up and skip over a bead, and then pick up and skip over I'm going to have something that starts like this, and I'm going to start on the smaller side. So it's going to be 7 per side. You can kind of pull it a little tight there. The first loop's going to be a little bit wonky, but it'll start taking shape once you go around. So I have my 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I picked up 3 beads, and now I'm going to be at my corner, so I'm going to pick up 2, but still just skip over 1. Okay, now we're going to be starting the long side. And again, you're just doing a simple peyote, pick up one bead and skip over the next bead. So as you can see here, I have the corner and I'm just starting right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pick up and skip. Can't get in that next one. There we go. And pick up and skip. And there we have my 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're at a corner. So I'm going to pick up 2. And skip 1 and go through the next one. And so now we're on a shorter side. So I'm picking up, I'm skipping 1. Picking up, skipping 1. Picking up and skipping 1. Okay, so that's going to give me my 7. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm coming out of that 7th one. And I'm picking up 2. And then just skipping 1. To finish off this longer side. And picking up 1, skipping 1, picking up 1, skipping 1, picking up 1, skipping 1, okay, and let's see, where are we? Do one more, picking up 1 and skipping 1. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so that brings us to the corner, which I'm going to add 2. And I'm skipping this one and going through kind of that first one that was the beginning of this first side that we did. Okay. And when we're here, let me get that tail out of your way. I'm going to show you. So we kind of have, again, the first row kind of looks a little wonky. That's okay. What we're going to do is we came out of this first one here that we started with, and I'm going to step up into the bead, the Delica bead that's on the top there. Okay, so now I'm coming out of one of the beads that we added on. And so from here, it's a little easy. What we're gonna do is just add on a Delica in between each one of these Delicas that we added on. So, coming out of that one, I'm going to add a Delica, and here we're not skipping over, we're just going through that bead that's going to be the next closest one. And you'll see that these will fit in together like a brick wall. So even when you get to the corner where we added those two, you're going to add one Delica bead in between those two that we added. And that'll kind of start defining this bezel once we get around. Okay, so that was the Delica bead that I just added in the corner. So I'm going to be starting on this next side here. And again, just adding my Delica in between each of those beads that I added on the first time around. And we'll just keep going around. And remembering to add, here I'm at the corner again. So I'm going through the corner beads. Remember we added two in the beginning, and I'm going through the first one, and I'm adding a Delica, and then going through the second one. And that'll bring me out to the next side. So you can start seeing the shape starting to come together. Again, with the peyote, the first two stitches are a little wonky, but you'll start seeing the shape as we go along. As you can see, the corners are getting a bit more defined. So I'm going to go through the next two sides and then meet you back at that beginning stitch that we did. Okay, so I am back at the kind of the last corner. I'm coming out of that first bead and I'm going through the second bead of the last corner. So I'm turning up to the first side. And so here I'm adding another Delica and going through kind of this first Delica here where it kind of looks like we're missing one. And from there I'm going to step up to the very first bead that we had added on this row. And again, if you're finding it a little hard to keep up, if you haven't learned the peyote stitch yet, you can check out our other YouTube videos so that you can learn that peyote stitch. Again, it's a very versatile stitch and very easy once you get it down. But it can be a little hard if you're trying to learn peyote with a bezel as your first try. So if you are kind of finding it a little hard to keep up, you definitely can watch those videos on our channel as well. So here you can start kind of seeing that shape. And this is gonna kind of fit right on top there. And we're gonna keep going around one more time, just adding the Delicas. So again, here I am kind of halfway through this first row, and I'm gonna start adding my next row. So doing the same thing that we did before, just adding a Delica in between each of those Delicas that we just added on that last go around. So just each one going through, you don't have to worry about skipping any. You're just gonna add one. And again, these fit just like a brick wall. So they should, if you have the correct count, they should just be fitting in rather nicely in between all the ones that we had just added previously. Okay, so that's going around that first corner and working our way up the longer side. Again, just adding one in between each of the Delicas we added before. And we're going to keep going around until we make it to that first corner that we started with. Okay, so I am just about to add on my last bead of this row. So I'm going, I just passed this corner. I'm putting in that last Delica. And from there, I'm gonna step up to that first Delica that we added on in the beginning of this row. Oops. Okay, so you can start seeing the forms coming a little bit better. You can start kind of seeing it there. So that will eventually kind of fit right in there. We're gonna go around one more time with the Delicas. So just keep adding in between each of those that we just added on. You can start seeing the sides kind of come up. It's in between each one. I'm adding on. So again, just keep going around until we make it to that first side that we were starting with. And then we'll be adding in the 15-ohs, and that'll kind of cinch together the corners to make that little kind of basket for the cabochon. So again, just keep going, adding one new Delica in between the Delicas that we just added on in the last row. and I will meet you back at our first corner. Okay, so I am just finishing up this last row. I'm adding my last Delica bead and going through and then stepping up into the Delica that we first added along the previous row. So from here you can kind of start seeing that little basket that will hold our cabochon. And so what I'm going to start doing is I have my 15-ohs here that I'm going to start putting in between my Delicas, but only on the corners and the longer side. On the shorter side, I'm still going to do one more row of Delicas. So I will start by, on this one, I'm going to add one Delica to get me to the corner. And then I'm going to do a 15 in between each of those Delicas. And you'll see, since the 15s are smaller, you'll see that they kind of cinch together. So they'll start kind of showing that form a bit more. So just keep going down this side. And kind of start pulling it tight a little bit until we get to the corner. So again, just the same thing that we've been doing, just instead of a Delica, it's going to be the 15, but in between each of those Delicas from the previous row, these are just going to fit right into that space. Okay, so here we are at the corner, and so I'm going to add on my 15 and going through that corner and coming around towards the shorter side. I'm going to do 1 15, and then I'm going to add a Delica, still just in between those spaces that we made. I'm going to do another Delica, and one more Delica. And then we get to the corner, so I added 3 Delicas after my 15s, and now I'm going to go back to 15 for the corner. And another 15. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put my cabochon in there so that I can start kind of pulling it a little tight, and then you all can see where the form's coming. Okay, so you can see we're working our way up along the sides. And the reason I'm still doing a few Delicas on the shorter side is just so that I can work a little bit more up around the edges. Okay. So again, we're on the longer side, so I'm just doing the 15s in between each of those Delicas. And we're getting up to the corner. So I'm going to add my 15s. To finish off the corner. And 1 15 to start the side. And then I'm going to do a Delica. And I'm going to finish off with a Delica. If you remember the beginning of this row, we still started with a Delica and then I went into the 15s. So this one is just finishing up that side. So I'm coming out and I'm going to step up into that Delica that we added at the beginning of this row. Okay, so now you can kind of see it coming together here. So what we're going to do is along the longer sides, still, actually this whole row we're just going to be doing 15-ohs now. So even on the shorter side, we'll be doing 15s. And you can kind of go and make sure that your thread is kind of pulled tight around. So we have a little box here. And we're going to finish off with the 15s. So coming out of that Delica that we just stepped up, and now just adding 15s in between that whole row that we just added on. You can kind of start seeing it work up the edges, and that's what's going to hold the cabochon in place. So again, just through all of those 15s that we added, and the Delicas on the short side, we'll be connecting those with the 15s now. Okay. All right, so, yep, just keep going around till we get to that beginning part of the corner that we started with. Again, just adding 1 15 in between each one, and I'll meet you back there. Okay, so I just finished that last row and I stepped up into the 15 that I had previously added in the beginning. So I'm going to go around one more with my very last row of 15s just to kind of finish off and make sure this is nice and tight around my cabochon. So again, coming out of that 15 where I stepped up, I'm just going to be adding one last row of 15s in between the 15s that I had just added. And just making sure to kind of pull tight after each stitch just so that it lays nicely along that cabochon. So So again, just kind of keep going with what we've been doing, just adding on in between the last row that we added. Kind of finishing up this bezeled rectangle here. And after this row, I'll kind of show you how to add some of the embellishments if you want, or you can just kind of keep it plain and just do the bezel there. So again, just making your way around back to that first corner that we started with. And then I'll show you how to finish up. Okay, so I am just adding my very last 15 into, again, that 15 that we added in the beginning of this row. And you'll just want to kind of pull that tight. And there we have it. So this is just the bezel, which you can either keep it as is. I think it's very nice just kind of as the bezel. If you want to add the embellishments, I'll show you how to do that next. Also with this, I do have these as a kind of dangled earring. But what's nice about the cabochon is you could glue, using E6000, glue a stud backing or even a clip-on backing if you don't have pierced ears. So this design is very versatile. You don't have to do it with the hook earring. So what we're gonna do is, so I've come out, I've just added my last 15. And I'm gonna make my way down, actually, I'm gonna make my way up here to the top, and I'm gonna add on my ear wire, and then I'm gonna come down and add on the embellishments. So what we're gonna do is just kind of zigzag your needle and thread through your bezel. And I say zigzag because you don't want to go straight across, because then your thread will show. So if you kind of go back and forth between rows, then your thread will hide in between the beads. Like I said, just kind of zigzagging your way up to the side. And I'll add on my ear wire. There we go. And this also is why I chose to use a size 12 needle, because it is easier to kind of go through those beads again with the thread. Since these are smaller, the Delicas and the 15s have those kind of tiny holes. A size 10 can work, but you might have to kind of use a little bit of force to pull it through those holes. Okay, so again, just kind of make your way up to the side, one of the smaller sides, and I'm going to make my way into the middle because that's where I'm going to put my ear wire. Okay, so I have zigzagged my way up to the middle of that small side. As you can see, I'm coming out of one of the Delicas that's kind of right in the middle. And here I'm going to use a wire guard, and then I'll be able to add on my ear wire to that. So coming out of kind of one of those middle Delicas, doesn't matter which one, just kind of use your eye, whichever one kind of looks right in the middle, and that would hang nicely from, if you can see that, where that would hang. So I'm using also a 2x3 rondelle. just as a little more embellishment in there between the bezel and the ear wire. You can use another 15 or another Delica, or you don't need to add this at all. So I'm going to string that on there, and then go through my wire guard, and I'm just pinching those ends together so that they're a little closer. You can use your pliers if you want as well. And just going through my wire guard, back down the other side, and then back through that rondelle again. Here we go. Kind of pull that. And then back through the Delica that you came out of, I'm going to go through the opposite side. So kind of looping around so the thread and my ear wire will stay in place there, kind of right above, kind of sitting right above that Delica that's in the center. And then you can just kind of pull that tight till it's sitting where you want it. Just like that. So now what I'm going to do is zigzag my way back down. So again, just kind of go through those Delicas that are next to each other, zigzagging from row to row so that it hides your thread. And that'll kind of get that to sit there and nice and straight there. So again, I'm going to zigzag my way back down to the opposite side, and then I'm going to go ahead and add on my briolets here, kind of that little embellishment. With this, you can also add either larger ones or just use the seed beads. There's really a lot that you can kind of just sew into these Delicas. That's what's nice about the bezel, the Peyote bezel also. You can just kind of sew into it and add little details that you want. So I'm going to make my way down there, and then I will show you how to add those briolets on. Okay, so I have made my way back down to the opposite side of my bezel. And here you'll just, if you're adding the 3 embellishments like I did here, you'll just kind of want to eyeball it, kind of what we did up at the top, to see where about that middle Delica is going to be, and then choose 2 on either side. The one I'm using here is just about on the corner. So I'm coming out of my Delica over here, and I'm going to add 6 15s. And then I'm going to go back through that same Delica, but going the opposite side so that it creates a loop. Just like that. And then I'm going to go up through the first 3. And I'm going to add on 1 and then go down the next 3. Oops. So that extra 1 will just kind of create a point. And then I'll add on my briolets. So I'm going to go through that last seed bead. Kind of pull that tight so that it makes kind of that loop there. And I'm going to go through that Delica one more time. So you can see I have kind of that little point there, just like that. And from there, I'm going to go up again, those 3 seed beads. And also through the seed bead that I just added on. Okay, and from there, I'm going to add my briolets. I'm using the 5x8 briolets, so the smaller size, and this one is in the smoky topaz. So I'm just going to go through my briolet and then go through that 15 again, going in the same direction. So we're going to be making a loop with the thread, and that'll just hold the briolet in place. I'm going to go through one more time the briolet, just to give it some extra support. And here you can just kind of pinch and pull till it's kind of sitting right where you want it. And then going back through that 15 to secure it in place. And again, just kind of pinching and getting it till it lays where you want it. And I'm going to go back up through the 15s. So up through those 3 on the side. So there we have our first little embellishment there. Okay, so from here I'm going to go through that same Delica one more time, and if it gets a little tight, you still should be okay. Just you can use some pliers if you need to, just to finish up on that side. And then I'm going to go zigzag my way to that middle Delica that I'm going to be using. Sorry, my head was in the way. Which will be, so going through those Delicas until I get to the middle one. That I want to use. Okay. And you can really kind of hang anything you want. If you want to do a larger one in the middle, I think that would look really nice as well. Or if you just kind of wanted to keep it the seed beads, you can loop around wherever you want. Okay, so I'm coming out of the Delica that I want to use as my middle one. And for the middle one, instead of 6, I'm going to be adding 8 seed beads. Okay, so you know, I actually went through. the wrong one here, so let me go back. And make my way up here. Okay, so I'm coming out of my Delica that's kind of right in the middle. And I'm going to add 8 of my 15s. And doing the exact same that we did on the first one. Going back through that Delica on the opposite side so that we make a loop. Okay, and we're going to go up those first 4 seed beads and then add an extra one to make that point, and then down the rest of the 4. Okay. And then again through that Delica that's kind of working as the base. And just pull that tight. And there you can see we have my next little point there. So again, up through the 4. And then I'm going to add my Bridgette. So I'm sorry, up through the 4 and also that one extra one that we added on. And from there, I'll add my Bridgette and go back through the 15 that we added as the point and pull that. I'm going to go through the Bridgette again and through the 15 again. And again here you can just kind of pinch it and pull tight so that it lays where you want it to. And go down those next 4 of my seed beads. And again, just kind of play around with that until it lays where you want it to. There we go. All right, and now I'm ready to move on to my next one. So again, going through the Delicas at the base, I'm going to go through that one and then zigzag over. To the one kind of on the edge for my last little embellishment there. So again, just zigzag through. Until I get over. Alright, so I am Just about there. Alright, so I'm on the edge, not quite at the corner, there's one more that's making the corner. So I'm at my edge, and I'm going to add 6 seed beads, so the same as the first little drop that we did. And then go through the Delica that I'm using as my base. So going through that Delica one more time so that it creates that loop. And again, up through the first 3. And I'm going to add that extra seed bead as the point, and then down through the next 3. And then again through my Delica that's acting as the base. And then back up the 3 and the extra one. And I'm going to add my last briolette. And go through that 15 again to create that loop with my thread. And I'm going to go twice through my briolette. Kind of pull that till it's where I want it to lay. Back through my 15. And then down through those last 3 of my 15s on the side. Okay. And I'm going to go through that Delica at my base one last time. So it holds the shape of my little drop down. Okay, and so there we have it. And from here, we are all done. I'm going to zigzag my way back to my tail from the very beginning, and that's where I'm going to knot it off and burn down the edges. So that way, I can just kind of hide the knot and hide the thread. So making my way over. So I can finish this off. And again, the nice thing about the peyote stitch and just kind of beaded bezels in general is you can embellish it any way you want to. It's just so easy to add on any little thing that you want, because you just need to sew in and out of that bezel that's already made. So you can really have a lot of leeway to really make this your own and make it unique and fun to fit you and your style. It keeps getting caught. There we go. All All right, now that I am just about over to the tail that I started out with, I can go ahead and knot this. Let's go through one more to get closer. There we go. Okay, so I can go ahead and take my needle off and just knot this just with your regular square knot. And just trim off or burn off those excess ends. Okay, so there we have it, and the last thing to do is just add on that ear wire. So I have just a simple ear wire here that I'm going to be using. And just close that off. And there we have it. Your simple peyote bezeled rectangle there for you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed creating your own peyote bezeled rectangle earrings. As always, we'd love to hear how you switched things up and kind of made this your own, and how this design inspired your designs. Remember, if you need any of the materials for these, they were listed at the beginning of the video, as well as underneath you'll find a full list with links to our website. Again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.